realized that Jonathan had left the Israelite camp. To reach the Philistine outpost, Jonathan had to go down between two rocky cliffs that were called Bozez and Sidon. The cliff on the north was in front of Michmash, and the one on the south was in front of Geba. Let's go across to the outpost to those pagans, Jonathan said to his armor bearer. Perhaps the Lord will help us, for nothing can hinder the Lord. He can win a battle whether he has many warriors or only a few. Do what you best, the armor bearer replied. I'm with you completely, whatever you decide. All right then, Jonathan told him. We will cross over and let them see us. If they say to us, stay where you are or we'll kill you, then we will stop and not go up to them. But if That's Wabu, Shayla, Alicia, Ya, Trina, hey girl, hey, hey girls, hey. Oh yeah, I need to check something. Okay, that's what I needed. Okay. I got YouTube going here. Let me just double check it. Bring it back up on the screen. Okay, yep. Peace and blessings, all of y'all, YouTube. Everybody here. I guess not everybody's here. All right, y'all. So really. All right, y'all. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. It is day 109. It is March the 23rd, 21, day 109 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 3-year consecutive day count, day 778, 778. Y'all, today we're reading 1 Samuel 10, 11, and 12, and then we're picking up over in the Legends of the Jews. All right, y'all, so hurry up and get started so I can get through some of the Legends of the Jews. Finish some of this stuff about Solomon. Okay. Bring this back up. Yeah, so we're about to start with the Shema. Shema Israel. Okay, that's ready to go. Boom. Voila. A little bit more. Okay. All right, beautiful people. Sorry, y'all. I got to make a note in here. See, because when I add notes, what happens is it pushes it all the way down to the bottom and use my most recent notes. And I forget, I got to make a new note to keep it up at the top so I'm not searching for it in the morning. Okay, there we go. Shema, y'all. The Shema is found in Deuteronomy Chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel. Yahuwah, our God, He is one God, and you shall love Yahuwah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children. And you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way,
and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God, as he has promised us. Joy risings. Sawubona yaya. All right. Hop right to it, y'all. 1 Samuel chapter 10. Samuel anoints Saul as king today. Then Samuel took a flask of olive oil and poured it over Saul's head. He kissed Saul and said, I am doing this because Yahuwah has appointed you to be the ruler over Israel, his special possession. When you leave me today, you will see two men beside Rachel's tomb at Zelzah on the border of Benjamin. Oh, sorry. It's not presentable here. I'm sorry. Okay. On the border of Benjamin. They will tell you that the donkeys have been found and that your father has stopped worrying about them and is now worried about you. He is asking, have you seen my son? When you get to the Oak of Tabor, you will see three men coming toward you who are on their way to worship Yahuwah at Bethel. One will be bringing 3 young goats. Another will have 3 loaves of bread. And the third will be carrying a wineskin full of wine. They will greet you and offer you 2 of the loaves, which you are to accept. When you arrive at Gibeah of Yahuwah, where the garrison of the Philistines is located, you will meet a band of prophets coming down from the place of worship. They will be playing a harp, a tambourine, a flute, and a lyre, and they will be prophesying. At that time, the Spirit of Yahuwah will come powerfully upon you, and you will prophesy with them. You will be changed into a different person. After these signs take place, do what must be done, for Yahuwah is with you. Then go down to Gilgal ahead of me. I will join you there to sacrifice burnt offerings and peace offerings. You must wait 7 days until I arrive and give you further instructions. As Samuel turned and started to leave, Yahuwah gave him a new heart, and all Samuel's signs were fulfilled that day. When Saul and his servant arrived at Gibeah, they saw a group of prophets coming toward them. Then the Spirit of Yahuwah came powerfully upon Saul, and he too began to prophesy. When those who knew Saul heard about it, they exclaimed, what? Is even Saul a prophet? How did the son of Kish become a prophet? And one of those standing there said, can anyone become a prophet, no matter who his father is? So that is the origin of the saying, is even Saul a prophet? When Saul had finished prophesying, he went up to the place of worship. Where have you been? Saul's uncle asked him and his servant. We were looking for the donkeys, Saul replied, but we couldn't find them. So we went to Samuel to ask him where they are. Oh, and what did he say? His uncle asked. He told us that the donkeys had already been found, Saul replied, but Saul didn't tell his uncle what Samuel said about the kingdom. Later, Samuel called all the people of Israel to meet before Yahuwah at Mizpah. He said, this is what Yahuwah, the God of Israel, has declared. I brought you from Egypt and rescued you from the Egyptians and from all of the nations that were oppressing you. But though I have rescued you from your misery and distress, you have rejected your God today and have said, no, we want a king instead. Now therefore present yourselves before Yahuwah by tribes and by clans. So Samuel brought all the tribes of Israel before Yahuwah, and the tribe of Benjamin was chosen by lot. Then he brought each family of the tribe of Benjamin before Yahuwah, and the family of the Matrites was chosen. And finally, Saul, son of Kish, was chosen from among them. But when they looked at him, he had disappeared. But when they looked for him, he had disappeared. So they asked Yahuwah, where is he? And Yahuwah replied, he is hiding among the baggage. So they found him and brought him out, and he stood head and shoulders above anyone else. Then Samuel said to the people, this is the man Yahuwah has chosen as your king. No one in all of Israel is like him. And all the people shouted, long live the king. Then Samuel told the people what the rights and duties of a king were. He wrote them down on a scroll and placed it before Yahuwah. Then Samuel sent the people home again. When Saul returned to his home at Gibeah, a group of men whose hearts Yahuwah had touched went with him. But there were some scoundrels who complained, "How can this man save us?" And they scorned him and refused to bring him gifts. But Saul ignored them. Nahash, king of the Ammonites, had been grievously oppressing the people of Gad and Reuben, who lived east of the Jordan River. He gouged out the right eye of one of the Israelites living there, and he didn't allow anyone to come and rescue them. In fact, of all the Israelites east of the Jordan, there wasn't a single one whose right eye Nahash had not gouged out. But there were 7,000 men who escaped from the Ammonites, and they had settled in Jabesh Gilead. I'm like, gee, y'all should have went on over into the promised land trying to say, look, let our women, children, all our lives, let everybody stay on this side of the Jordan. I'm like, boy, y'all don't know the trouble that's coming for y'all. Y'all should have went into the promised land, right? Belinda Brown, wholeness and grand rising. Shalom. 1 Samuel chapter 11. About a month later, King Nahash of Ammon led his army against the Israelite town of Jabesh Gilead, but all the citizens of Jabesh asked for peace. "Make a treaty with us, and we will be your servants," they pleaded. "All right," Nahash said, "but only on one condition. I will gouge out the right eye of every one of you as a disgrace to all of Israel." "Give us 7 days to send messengers throughout Israel," replied the elders of Jabesh. "If no one comes to save us, we will agree to your terms." Like, what kind of terms do you gashing out one of my eyes? No, I need them both. We out of here. Look like they was bereft of all their sanity by letting this happen. Who goes into a covenant like this? Okay. When the messengers came to Gibeah of Saul and told the people about their plight, everyone broke into tears. I bet, because pretty soon you're only going to be able to cry out of one eye. Saul had been plowing a field with his oxen, and when he returned to town, he asked, "What's the matter? Why is everyone crying?" So they told him about the message from Jabesh. The spirit of Yahuwah came powerfully upon Saul, and he became very angry. He took 2 oxen and cut them into pieces and sent the messengers to carry them throughout all of Israel with this message: "This is what will happen to the oxen of anyone who refuses to follow Saul and Samuel into battle." And Yahuwah made the people afraid of Saul's anger, and all of them came out together as one. When Saul mobilized them at Bezek, he found that there were 300,000 men from Israel and 30,000 men from Judah. So Saul sent the messengers back to Jabesh Gilead, excuse me, to say, "We will rescue you by noontime tomorrow." There was great joy throughout the town when that message arrived. The men of Jabesh then told their enemies, "Tomorrow we will come out to you, and you can do to us whatever you wish." But before dawn the next morning, Saul arrived, having divided his army into 3 detachments. He launched a surprise attack against the Ammonites and slaughtered them the whole morning. The remnant of their army was so badly scattered that no 2 of them were left together. Then the people exclaimed to Saul, "Now, where are those men who said, 'Why should Saul rule over us?' Bring them here and we will kill them." But Saul replied, "No one will be executed today, for today Yahuwah has rescued Israel." Then Samuel said to the people, "Come, let us all go to Gilgal to renew the kingdom." So they all went to Gilgal, and in a solemn ceremony before Yahuwah, they made Saul king. Then they offered peace offerings to Yahuwah, and Saul and all the Israelites were filled with joy. All right, y'all, last chapter for the day, but then we'll hop over to the legends of the Jews. 1 Samuel chapter 12. Shalom, Josiah. Then Samuel addressed all of Israel. "I have done as you have asked and given you a king. Your king is now your leader. I stand here before you, an old gray-haired man, and my sons serve you. I have served as your leader from the time I was a boy to this very day. Now testify against me in the presence of Yahuwah and before his anointed one. Whose ox or donkey have I stolen? Have I ever cheated any of you? Have I ever oppressed you? Have I ever taken a bribe and perverted justice? Tell me, and I will make right whatever I have done wrong. No, they replied, you have never cheated or oppressed us, and you have never taken even a single bribe. Yahuwah and his anointed one are my witnesses today, Samuel declared. My hands are clean. Yes, he is a witness, they replied. It is Yahuwah It was Yahuwah who appointed Moses and Aaron, Samuel continued. He brought your ancestors out of the land of Egypt. Now stand here quietly before Yahuwah as I remind you all of the great things Yahuwah has done for you and your ancestors. When the Israelites were in Egypt and cried out to Yahuwah, he sent Moses and Aaron to rescue them from Egypt and to bring them into this land. But the people soon forgot about Yahuwah their God, so he handed them over to Sisera, the commander of Hazor's army, and to all the Philistines and to the king of Moab who fought against them. Then they cried to Yahuwah and again confessed, we have sinned by turning away from Yahuwah and worshiping the images of Baal and Ashtaroth. But we will worship you and you alone if you will rescue us from our enemies. Then Yahuwah sent Gideon, Bedan, Jephthah, and Samuel to save you, and you lived in safety. Right? There's some more to the saviors of Israel. Then Yahuwah sent Gideon, Bedan, Jephthah, and Samuel to save you, and you lived in safety. But when you were afraid of Nahash, the king of Ammon, you came to me and said that you wanted a king to reign over you, even though Yahuwah your God was already your king. All right, here is the king you have chosen. You have asked for him, and Yahuwah has granted your request. That's Wabu TT. Take your hey. Now, if you fear and worship Yahuwah and listen to his voice, and if you do not rebel against Yahuwah's commands, then both you and your king will show that you recognize Yahuwah as your God. But if you rebel against Yahuwah's commands and refuse to listen to him, then his hand will be as heavy upon you as it was upon your ancestors. Now stand here and see the great thing Yahuwah is about to do. You know that it does not rain at this time of the year during the wheat harvest. I will ask Yahuwah to send thunder and rain today. Then you will realize how wicked you have been in asking Yahuwah for a king. So Samuel called to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah sent thunder and rain that day. I'm telling you, people, my G, we can control the elements. Of course, we speak to Yahuwah. He allows it, but it happens. And all the people were terrified of Yahuwah and of Samuel. Pray to Yahuwah, your God, for us, or we will die, they all said to Samuel. For now we have added to our sins by asking for a king. Like, how many times have I already mentioned this to y'all? It's only now that it looked like y'all about to die again because of the thunder and the rain that I said was going to come came. Now you want to repent? So Samuel called to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah sent thunder and rain that day, and all the people were terrified of Yahuwah and of Samuel. Pray to Yahuwah your God for us, or we will die. They all said to Samuel, for now we have added to our sins by asking for a king. Don't be afraid, Samuel reassured them. You have certainly done wrong, but make sure now that you worship Yahuwah with all your heart and do not turn your back on him. Don't go back to worshiping worthless idols that cannot help or rescue you. They are totally useless. Yahuwah will not abandon his people because that would dishonor his great name, for it has pleased Yahuwah to make you his very own people. As for me, I will certainly not sin against Yahuwah by ending my prayers for you, and I will continue to teach you what is good and right. But be sure to fear Yahuwah and faithfully serve him. Think of all the wonderful things he has done for you. But if you continue to sin, you and your king will be swept away. All right, y'all. Mom, shalom, shalom. All right, beautiful people. Let's hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews. Remember, we left off with Asmodeus had flung King Solomon all the way into Never Land, about 400 parasangs, and said he tossed him. King Solomon was bereft of his wisdom because he started worshiping his wives' gods, right? Remember, all the wives he took unto himself, they were not worshiping Yahuwah, right? Even if they were, he was not to multiply them to himself, but he ignored the commands. Did it anyway. Now his kingdom is about to crumble. Look at here. We left off on page 435. Look. Let me read this last little paragraph from yesterday. So we know he called Asmodeus. He's building the temple. He went to go get the shamir. Asmodeus knew what a shamir was. The shamir is a thing that cracks stones, rocks, mountains, and everything, right? We knew that it was made at the very beginning of time, but it was set apart for King Solomon's day. And only Asmodeus, the king of the demons, knew where the shamir could be found. Morning, Uncle Nathaniel, Uncle James Brown. All right, y'all. So I'm going to read this last paragraph. Although Asmodeus was captured only for the purpose of getting the shamir, Solomon nevertheless kept him after the completion of the temple. One day, the king told Asmodeus that he did not understand wherein the greatness of the demons lay, if their king could be kept in bonds by a mortal. Excuse me. So he like, how is it that the demonic kingdom is so powerful when I, a mere mortal, can keep the king of the demons under chains? How are y'all so powerful? One day, the king told Asmodeus that he did not understand wherein the greatness of the demons lay, if their king could be kept in bonds by a mortal. Asmodeus replied that if Solomon would remove his chains and lend him the magic ring, he would prove his own greatness. Okay. Orange juice? Okay. Well, you might want to get you some. Get some of that sea moss, boss. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay. That's up there. You can get all of them. The sea moss, the moringa, get a zinc.
Go ahead, finish.
Okay, Mr. Murphy. Okay. Asmodeus replied that if Solomon would remove his chains and lend him the magic ring, he would prove his own greatness. Solomon agreed. The demon stood before him with one wing touching heaven and the other reaching to the earth. Snatching up Solomon, who had parted with his protecting ring, he flung him 400 parasangs away from Jerusalem and then palmed himself off as the king. So he changed himself into the likeness of the king. Shalom, Joanne. All right, so this is where the reading picks up today. Solomon as a beggar. Now, had we all learned that Solomon went through this little stint of being a beggar, a lot of people wouldn't be trying to follow some of King Solomon's ways by multiplying the wives to themselves and riches and just for my own heaping. Yahuwah said kings should not do that. But when they cut off all the pieces of the truth or portions of the pieces of the truth, it has our people out here bereft of their wisdom, right? And they find themselves in places like this and they don't even understand why, right? Okay. Banished from his home, deprived of his realm, Solomon wandered about in far-off lands among strangers, begging for his daily bread. Nor did his humiliation end there. People thought him a lunatic because he never tired of assuring them that he was Solomon, Judah's great and mighty king. So imagine you've been flung out here. Now you look like you come from the gutter. Everybody think you crazy. I'm King Solomon. What? No, seriously, I'm King Solomon. A demon threw me 400. Imagine how crazy you sound now talking about a demon that flung you 400 parasangs from off your throne in Jerusalem. Everybody laughing at him. Look. Nor did his humiliation end there. People thought him to be a lunatic because he never tired of assuring them that he was Solomon, Judah's great and mighty king. Naturally, that seemed a preposterous claim to the people. The lowest depth of despair he reached. However,
Put this in my drink.
Huh?
Just put this in my drink.
Wait, you opened it up?
No. I was just saying, why don't you just make me a drink? I can come back past it in the truck.
Oh, so you don't want to take them? You just want me to put it all in?
Yeah, I can drink that drink, though, if you're going to put it in the drink.
Okay. I'll make a draught for you.
A what?
A draught.
Shit. Yeah, you make it like you did yesterday, though.
Okay, wait. What do you want? The juice or you want it in a smoothie? The juice. Okay. All right. I peeled 14 oranges to make you that.
Man, well, never mind.
No, I got you. No, I'm gonna do it. I'm just saying. I ain't used 14. I did use like 7 though.
God, hey, you got some oranges in?
Yeah, I got regular oranges and blood oranges.
Oh.
That I know it sounds crazy because we ain't supposed to drink or eat blood, but it's just it's how it. Okay. All right, I got you. I put a lemon in it too. All that vitamin C.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Naturally, that seemed a preposterous claim to the people. The lowest depths of despair he reached, however, when he met someone who recognized him. The recollections and associations that stirred within him then made his present misery almost unendurable. It happened that once on his peregrinations. Sorry, y'all. Y'all know I be screwing up some words sometimes. Okay, I think that's what it said. Peregrinations. Okay. It happened that once on his peregrinations, he met an old acquaintance, a rich and well-considered man who gave a sumptuous banquet in honor of Solomon. At the meal, his host spoke to Solomon constantly of the magnificence and splendor he had once seen with his own eyes as the court of the king. The reminiscence moved the king to tears, and he wept so bitterly that when he arose from the banquet, he was satiated, not with rich food, but with salt of tears. The following day, again, it happened that Solomon met an acquaintance of former days, this time a poor man who nevertheless entreated Solomon to do him the honor and break bread under his roof. All that poor man could offer his distinguished guest was a meager dish of greens, but he tried in every way to assuage the grief that oppressed Solomon. He said, "O my Lord and King, Yahuwah have sworn unto David that he would never let the royal dignity depart from his house, but it is the way of Yahuwah to reprove those he loves if they sin." So this old man, he said, "Oh, King Solomon, Yahuwah promised that this thing would never happen to the king's house, nor his descendants." He said, "But we do know that this is how Yahuwah punishes those he loves. My king, what have you done?" Right? It had to have an old beggarly man, an old elderly beggarly man to sit here and say this to you, "My king, what have you done to be sitting here under my roof?" Right? Levon, good morning. Look, okay. He said, "Oh, my Lord and King, Yahuwah has sworn unto David he would never let the royal dignity depart from his house, but it is the way of Yahuwah to reprove those he loves if they sin. Rest assured, he will restore thee in good time to thy kingdom." These words of the poor host were more grateful to Solomon's bruised heart than the banquet the rich man had prepared for him. It was to the contrast between the consolations of the two men that he applied in Proverbs. "Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith." For 3 long years, Solomon journeyed about, begging his way from city to city, from country to country, atoning for the 3 sins of his life, which he had set aside the commandment laid upon kings. Y'all better listen to me good. Y'all better listen to me good. Look, let me go back. And I keep harping on this because I see a lot. Like I said, I see a lot of our men waking up, getting attached to the wrong groups that are waking up, and they're taking them back to some of these ways that led us to where we are today. It's like you're waking up a little bit light to your eyes, then you're attaching yourself to somebody who's walking down them same paths that's going to take you right back to that same place we just woke you up from. Now, gee, listen here. For 3 long years, Solomon journeyed about, begging his way from city to city and from country to country, atoning for the 3 sins of his life, by which he had set aside the commandment laid upon kings in Deuteronomy not to multiply horses, wives, and silver and gold. At the end of that time, Yahuwah took mercy upon him for the sake of his father David and for the sake of the pious princess Naamah, the daughter of the Ammonite king, destined by Yahuwah to be the ancestress of the Messiah. The time was approaching when she was to become the wife of Solomon and reign as queen in Jerusalem. Look, y'all, let me tell y'all something. If y'all have not started reading BlackRoots Science yet, you really should consider it, or at least listen to it if it's too thick, if it's too much for you to read. If you don't, or if you're busy and you don't have the time, it ain't gonna hurt nothing for you to put it in your ear, whistle while you work, right? Listen to it while you work and just let it play, because it holds a lot of truth and it brings a lot of things to light, and you can clearly tell. Like as we read through scriptures, you can tell that there are missing portions. If you read it enough, you can tell that something is missing from the story, right? So if we sit and we think about it, some of those things we realize, a lot of the things that we realize has been missing from the story is the part that the women played, right? The part that the women played. But only enough was canonized about the women to where it would seem that the women were, what's the word? What word I want to use here? Were not relevant enough, right? Not relevant enough to see. I tried to listen to it. I couldn't follow what they were saying. Okay, you may have, okay, maybe I need to do like an overview of it. It'll probably be a separate video date, or maybe we can chat and we kind of talk about it. But look, okay. Let me think about that, because you got to get through some stuff. Yeah, subservient is probably a good word. Or if you got the printout, or you don't even have to have the printout. If you go, Dana, and you look at the table of contents, maybe if you look through some of the table of contents, because sometimes people need an overview, right? Because what it's doing, and a lot of people, from what I'm understanding, they can't get through the beginning portions of it, because it's going through history and it's building up from the beginning. So it's kind of taking you along a road to where you're filling in stuff. But as that road begins to fill in, if you're really familiar with scripture, a lot of the scripture will start coming to light. I'm like, what? Oh, snap. And it actually has answered some of my questions, right, that I had already been researching. I'm like, wait a minute, this is definitely true. But even if you don't, still, it's enough resources out here to kind of get to the truth of the matter, right? But the scripture, the way it has been canonized by the early church fathers, right? And Constantine and them, when they started putting stuff together, they put together what they wanted to put together. They left out a lot of truths. And because they were Rome is this... the way they rule is like they don't only rule over men, but they also rule over their women to make them subservient to them. That wasn't the way of our nation, right? The way of our nation, when there was a king, there was a queen who ruled beside that king, and they were of equal, what's the word? They were equal in power, right? Because you couldn't have one without the other. They both ruled together. It was two, they're two separate pieces of a whole. You can't have one without the other. Just like the analogy of the plug. You can't have a socket by itself, it's useless. You can't have a plug by itself, it's useless. The power comes when you take the two design pieces and put them together, and voila, the power flows. Almost, look, I can even see it in my life, right? And maybe some people that watch this in our industry or whatever, right? But we've noticed over the years of us being in business for ourselves, right? Not that we're perfect and we do everything right, but here's something I've noticed over the years with me and my husband and the type of business we're in, right? So we started our business in 2008. Well, actually started before then because it was kind of like a sole proprietor, right? But we transitioned it into an actual, we started technically in 2006. But we transitioned it into a corporation in 2008 after about 2 years of my husband kind of working as a subcontractor. We learned it. Okay, we'll put this together as a company. So my husband was in the field. I'm behind the scenes. I'm doing all the contract and the paperwork, two pieces of a bigger whole working together. Now, here's what we noticed throughout the years. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it has to be done with a support system. We've seen people who are in our industry, in the installation, the commercial furniture installation industry, that hop out here, men who hop out here, oh, I can do this. I'm gonna start my own company. And they do good for the first couple years. Then when they hit that point of growth and you gotta up it a little bit and you start needing help for your jobs, and you may even need to hire a couple employees, you go through this growing pain, right? Now you have to adjust. If you're a sole proprietor, you have to adjust the structure of your company to make sure you're benefiting over all areas, tax benefits and everything. Make sure you're not paying too much taxes. Make sure you're not paying too little taxes. Because if you're the technician in your company, right? If you're the person out there running the jobs in the field, where is the executive person that's helping you keep everything in order? Because if you're out here in the field 24/7 running your crew, who is doing the paperwork? Who's doing the invoicing? Who is making sure the taxes are being paid on time? Who is running all this stuff in the background, right? We found it. Now, mind you, all of the ones we know personally, with the exception of, let me say this. All of the people who have jumped out here have been married, right? They have a wife or their wife has another job, what have you, but that doesn't even really matter for real. You can come to agreement, make your business work, right? But what we've noticed is after definitely when they hit that 3-year mark, they start running into trouble and they are out of business by the end of that 3rd year. We just had another acquaintance of ours. They run some projects, did the same thing. They got it, boom, got some contracts. We the new blood out here. I'm like, okay, trying to pull up everything. They lowballing people on these contract prices. Like, well, we told was like, absolutely not. We are not 25,000. Absolutely not. Y'all can have that. Like, first of all, because we have a payroll, we got people to pay, all these things. We're thinking about our overhead. Some jobs are not beneficial for us to take, and we'll let y'all have at that, right? But what happens is when they get out here early and they're not aware of these pitfalls, it took us one time to be lowballed in a project, and we paid for that mistake for years. And the company knew, for one, it was our first time bidding on one of these type of projects, and we thought it was sufficient until we realized all the change orders that start coming and all the different things. We got other contractors out here. That's when we learned to cover our butt. Other contractors working on a project with you, they breaking up stuff. If you don't have proof that you didn't do it, you get hit with them fees and all these change orders, and now you're paying money out of pocket. We were in the negative when we came out of that job, right? That was a $25,000 job. We should have profited at least $5,000 after payroll overhead. No, but we did not look ahead and foresee all the drama that was about to happen with this, because we was working with multiple contractors on this project for a dorm project that was being done, right? And all we was there was just to install the furniture. But what happens is, if you don't have somebody in the background looking at all these different aspects, keeping you covered, when you go through this growing pain, and it's like a lot of people don't make it past the first 5 years, because within that first 5 years, most of the time now, what we've seen in this industry is when it's in that first 3 years, when you hit that little growing pain, that bump, if you don't have something there to help cushion you, help walk you through these things, you end up going out of business. You cannot sustain yourself. And if it's just you being a technician out there in your business, running your jobs, we know ain't nobody doing your paperwork, right? Or you at home tired, you messing up numbers and stuff, and you sending in incorrect numbers, invoices and stuff, because we sub some of them and they send stuff in with us. But blessed be the most holy, they run into us and we're honest people. Look, you need to fix your invoice. You supposed to have charges this. This is a typo. Did you look at this? Was you tired when you sent this to me? I mean, I don't mind keeping an extra $5,000, but it's due to you. So fix your invoice and resend it to us, please. But so when you have things like that and you don't have a support system, like you got a plug, and you got a socket and you got a plug, but they're separate. So the men can go out here, they can do it by themselves, but they still, if they don't have a wife or somebody that's helping them with their job, they have to get a support system. Either they're going to do it all themselves for a couple of years and burn out, or they're going to catch a clue. They're going to get wise. And if they don't have a wife, even if they have a wife, but their wife is not helping them, she's preoccupied with something else, other job, whatever, that's okay. You're going to have to find that other portion that's going to help support you. So you're going to either need to outsource to invoicing and payroll companies. You need to make sure all this stuff is done. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a world of trouble, and you're going to have two people knocking on your door. And if you're in a state where you have to pay taxes, you're going to have the IRS and the state knocking on your door. Ask me how I know. But thank be the Most Holy. Thanks to the Most Holy, we got our stuff together. Listen, most IRS agents, but that happens with most businesses. You cannot do it alone. I think I shared this story with y'all last year when the IRS agents showed up at our door, like they was knocking on the door. Like, this really happens in real life. They about to put us on TV. But they think we're doing white collar crimes in here. Look, but the thing was, we went through this period where, boom, we had a big contract and we had a huge influx of money. And there were taxes and payroll taxes and stuff that needed to be paid. And at this time where it was smaller, I was handling the payroll like a champ, boom, 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 taxes, all these things, till we ran into that growth spurt. So we learned a whole lot at that time. What we thought we knew, we didn't know it all. But let's be the Most Holy. We ain't give up, because there was some tough times. But thank be the Most Holy as well, that with their job, we had all that money sitting in the bank, so we was able to stroke them a check, or they was ready to call the police on us. They coming there with their official badges and stuff. I'm sitting there sweating under my arms. I'm like, wait a minute. We ain't lying. I'm just sweating because y'all said, I don't know what y'all about to do to us. Right? And so I had to open up. I was like, look, first of all, let's just verify that you are who you say you are. Let me see your badge. I don't know what I'm looking for. Okay, they look pretty legit to me, but you found us, and clearly what you're saying out your mouth, you had to pull that from some government website, because no, we don't give that information out to people. So you might be legit, right? So, but let me tell you, who always shows up for us. He was telling us way before then, but the day before, I had this strong, when I say strong feeling, Pam, call a CPA today. Because I'm like, I can do this. I'm going to figure this out. I'm pretty good with numbers. Let me go through here and figure this out. Boom, boom, boom. We got it. Filing all the reports. I got this. Boom. When we went through this, it was I was like, okay, Father, let me just stop, because I am getting frustrated at this point. I called the CPA and actually I actually called to see if they were open. When I found out they was open, I was like, let me take this stuff. I know I'm going to have to make an appointment, but I'm going to go in and show my face. So I went in with my stuff just so I can make sure that I got us an appointment. Where he's like, okay, we'll go ahead and set up an appointment. I got his card and all this stuff. Came back home. The very next day, them two IRS agents showed up at the door. And because of where we lived at the time, we lived in this 2-bedroom apartment, but it was in a neighborhood full of trailer homes, right? It was a trailer park, but it was whoever did it, there was a slab of land there. Instead of putting trailers on it, they decided to build in-ground homes, right? And they made them apartments. So when you drive through there, it looked like, wait a minute, hold on, they got this kind of money living in here in a trailer, but they pulled up to apartments. And so I'm like, look, we already look like we suspect, because where we live at. And they came over here, and ain't no way we'd have made this much money living here. That's our thinking at that time. So I was like, listen, I'm gonna show you, we're not lying. Look here, I'm gonna show you this. I want to talk to a CPA. I pulled out a card, said you can call him, you can verify all this stuff. And you know what? Look, they were Black women too. They was like, oh, really? In order they pulled out their cell phone and called, right? I'm like, well, I'm glad I wasn't lying to them. They probably had a feds over here in a hot second ready to pull us out of here. You remember that? Yeah, Trina, you've been there. Look. So they verified that we were not lying, that we actually did reach out to a good, reputable CPA that was going to help us kind of fix these forms and make sure we pay the proper taxes. And they were satisfied while I wrote them a check right there, right? I wrote them a $13,000 check right there. And then, so when they got back, I'm glad we got the CPA, because about a week later, although we're still working on some forms, they asked for a couple things, and I had some miscalculations in there, right? Because and we was working with smaller amounts of money, but as you start making more money, you're working with bigger amounts of money. It's always good to have somebody double check behind you just to make sure you haven't transposed numbers and miscalculated something, and I did, And so she said, okay, Miss Murphy, look, here, you need to adjust your form here, right here. Here's the proper calculation for it, and here's $3,000 back. They sent us $3,000. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad this whole episode happened. So right then and there, I was like, you know what? I ain't too proud to go ask for help, So we got me and my husband working. We're pretty good with numbers, both of us together, him out in the field. So, but I'm like, you know what? That's when I was like, outsourcing is probably the best thing for us. And so that's when we began outsourcing things like payroll. I stopped doing it. I stopped doing the payroll myself. I know how to do it. I can double check you, make sure you're not stealing our money. And I'm watching over you. Give me my reports. Let me double check everything. Has this been filed in city dates? I'm watching stuff, right? So once we did that, things started, that portion of the learning curve smoothed out for us, right? And when you smooth that portion of the learning curve out and you get that, it prepares you for bigger things. So now if you need capital to continue to grow your business or different things, if you got these beginning stage things in order, everything just kind of flows and you can build upon it. But a lot of people never get past this point, right? And so I started talking about all of that because I was talking about how in our community, in our nation of people, when there was a king, there was always a queen who ruled beside the king, and they worked together as a pair, right? And I brought up BlackRoots Science because it does a good explanation of that, of our history, which was left out of the canonized portion of the Bible. But even if you go to other manuscripts, you can kind of pick up some of that stuff, right? They are a balancing act for one another, right? And if they need help outside of one another, you got two that can come together. Okay, we can do this, right? And make sure things just kind of flow, and you can literally run your kingdom like without flaw. Not without flaw, but you will get through it, and it'll be a lot smoother than what it would be if you didn't have that support system, right? So that's why I said I've noticed with the guys in our industry who didn't have wives helping them, or they were too prideful to sub out their stuff to not to any Tom, Dick, and Harry, but to a professional company. Like I'm telling them all the time, use ADP. ADP will save your butt many a day, right? All the time. I love ADP. I will never use another payroll, so I ain't gonna say that, but ain't nobody better than ADP, and we tried a couple of them. But they kind of go out of business because they hit that learning curve and all this paperwork, and they start messing up, and it tends to become sloppy. They become overwhelmed and frustrated. Now they just willy-nilly throwing money out. We sitting here watching, you about to go out of business. All the clientele, they already calling us. They say, y'all messing up, you're being sloppy. And here's what it is. Here's honestly, these guys, like, they all know my husband. They'll come and talk to my husband, sit and take up all his time, sitting in our warehouse, talking to him, and my husband, I'm going to give you some wisdom. It's enough out here for all of us. I'm not in competition with you. Here's what you need to do. You need to get this. But they were like, oh, well, can your wife help? He said, absolutely not. You better use your own wife. It never ceases to amaze me that he always say, he said, look, they trying to use your services. Do not. Let them use their own wife. And he said, he said, give me a list of stuff that I can show them and tell them. And he give it to them. But what do? They don't take his advice or his wisdom. And he's honest with them. Look, this is what you need to do, boss. Because we went through this. You probably need to do that. They sit in there and soak up all this time from him, getting some of the wisdom that none of them put into practice, with the exception of one. And he's doing a little bit better now because he saw, like, wait a minute. Okay, look, I might need to listen to you. How long y'all been in business? So I'm saying that our community has always been one who it was very even all the way around. You had the king and you had the queen, and they had simultaneous duties that went together like a hand and glove. Like you can't have one without the other. But when you read through scripture, most of the portions about the women were completely removed. It was completely sanitized of all the women, right? And so now we go through this thing, and now the women are oppressed, and women feel like, oh, you only good for the bedroom and the kitchen floor. Bedroom and the kitchen. Kitchen and the bedroom, Florida. Y'all watch Good Times. Kitchen and the bedroom, Florida. Kitchen and the bedroom. Right? Although you shine in them places too. But sis, can you not be like this woman who was in Proverbs 31? Yes, you can, right? So I know I really didn't get off, but I was bringing home the point about it being an even thing with the king and the queen, right? So if you have a missing piece, if that piece is not together, you tend to see lack or mishappenings happening all around the place. And if you're missing a significant other, you have to have the wisdom and not be so prideful and think that you can do it all. You must go get help you build the vision, right? Build your empire, but use people who are reputable. And this is what they do all day. Don't get somebody that's scattered in 10 different places trying to do 10 different things. No, I need payroll services. I don't need you to doing this. I just need, this is what you do. This is what you get paid to do. Make sure my stuff is straight. Do my payroll, nothing else. So we use different contractors for different things. I'm going to use the expert in every field just to make sure our overall operation is running smoothly, right? So my husband can be out there. I'm not worried about this, because he know I got this. Boom, boom, boom. Look, here's a report, babe. We got this. We got this coming in. Boom, boom, boom. Whatever. If I think I'm missing something, go check on this. All right, gotcha. Write it down. All right. So, but that was the way of our people, the king and the queen ruling together, y'all. So, okay. Look, back to King Solomon. At the end of that time, Yahuwah took mercy upon him for the sake of his father David and for the sake of the pious princess Naamah, the daughter of the Ammonite king, destined by Yahuwah to the ancestors of the Messiah. The time was approaching when she was to become the wife of Solomon and reign as queen in Jerusalem. Therefore, Yahuwah led the royal wanderer, he called him a royal wanderer, Solomon. Yahuwah therefore led the royal wanderer to the capital city of Ammon. Salmon took service as an underling with the cook in the royal household, and he proved himself so proficient in the culinary art that the king of Ammon raised him to the post of chief cook. Hold on. The king of Jerusalem is a cook? Look, hey, he had to learn some humility. Y'all, if y'all don't learn this humility on your own, take every opportunity to discipline yourself and humble yourself, or you're going to meet both of you. You're going to meet discipline and humbleness on your road to riches or on your road to rags, right? Y'all better learn them lessons. Some of them, some hard lessons. If you're thick-headed, I'm telling you, from personal experience. Solomon took service as an underling with the cook in the royal household, and he proved himself so proficient in the culinary art that the king of Ammon raised him to the post of chief cook. Thus he came under the notice of the king's daughter, Naamah, who fell in love with her father's cook. In vain, her parents endeavored to persuade her to choose a husband befitting her rank. Not even the king's threat to have her and her beloved executed availed to turn her thoughts away from Solomon. What that sound like, y'all? The Ammonite king had the lovers taken to a barren desert in the hope that they would die of starvation there. Solomon and his wife wandered through the desert until they came to a city situated by the seashore. They purchased a fish to stave off death. When Naamah prepared the fish, she found in its belly the magic ring belonging to her husband, which he had given to Asmodeus, and which, thrown into the sea by the demon, had been swallowed by a fish. So we know that this is Asmodeus, his mode of operation, right? So anytime Asmodeus is entrusted with anything, Asmodeus entrusted to the angel of the sea. Let's hide this all in the depths of the sea, right? So Asmodeus, whatever he gets, he takes it and he tosses it to the angel of the sea, which is what he did with the ring of King Solomon. They purchased a fish to stave off death. When Naamah prepared the fish, she found in its belly the magic ring belonging to her husband, which he had given to Asmodeus, and which, thrown into the sea by the demon, had been swallowed by a fish. Solomon recognized his ring, put it on his finger, and in the twinkling of an eye, he transported himself to Jerusalem. Asmodeus, who had been posing as King Solomon during the 3 years he drove out and himself ascended the throne again. Later on, he cited the king of Ammon before his tribunal, and he called him to account for the disappearance of the cook and the cook's wife, accusing him of having killed them. The king of Ammon protested that he had not killed, but only banished them. Then Solomon had the queen appear, and to his great astonishment and still greater joy, the king of Ammon recognized his daughter. Solomon succeeded in regaining his throne only after undergoing many hardships. The people of Jerusalem considered him a lunatic because he said he was Solomon. After some time, the members of the Sanhedrin noticed his peculiar behavior, and they investigated the matter. They found that a long time had passed since Benaiah, the confidant of the king, had been permitted to enter the presence of the usurper. Furthermore, the wives of Solomon and his mother Bathsheba informed them that the behavior of the king had completely changed. It was not befitting royalty and in no respect like Solomon's former manner. It was also very strange that the king never by any chance allowed his foot to be seen, for fear, of course, of betraying his demon origin. The Sanhedrin, therefore, gave the king's magic ring to the wandering beggar who called himself King Solomon and had him appear before the pretender on the throne. As soon as Asmodeus caught sight of the true king, protected by his magic ring, he flew away precipitately. Solomon did not escape unscathed. The sight of Asmodeus in all his forbidding ugliness had so terrified him that henceforth he surrounded his couch at night with all the valiant heroes among the people. All right, beautiful people. Oh yeah, we have 56 minutes. Oh, I thought that long. Oh, I can read this. Okay. We'd probably be done by 1:05. All right, y'all. So what happened? King Solomon spent 3 years of wandering, gazing. So what happens with King Solomon after spending 3 years wandering? Oh, he regained everything. We just read that. I know you posted this a little while ago, so I just answered that. Okay. All right, y'all. The court of Solomon. As David had been surrounded by great scholars and heroes of repute, so the court of Solomon was the gathering place of his people. The most important of them all, doubtless, was Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, who had no peer for learning and piety either in the time of the first or the second temple. In his capacity as the chancellor of Solomon, he was the object of the king's special favor. He was frequently invited to be the companion of the king in his games of chess. The wise king naturally always was the winner. One day, Solomon left the chessboard for a moment. Benaiah used his absence to remove one of the king's chessmen, and the king lost the game. Solomon gave much thought to the occurrence. He came to the conclusion that his chancellor had dealt dishonestly with him, and he was determined to give him a lesson. Some days later, Solomon noticed two suspicious characters hanging about the palace. Acting at once upon an idea that occurred to him, he put on the clothes of one of his servants and joined the two suspects. 3 of them, he proposed, should make the attempt to rob the royal palace, and he drew forth a key which would facilitate their entrance. While the thieves were occupied in gathering booty, the king roused his servants, and the malefactors were taken into custody. Next morning, Solomon appeared before the Sanhedrin, which was presided over by Benaiah at the time, and he desired to know from the court what punishment was meted out to a thief. Benaiah, seeing no delinquents before him, and unwilling to believe that the king would concern himself about the apprehension of thieves, was convinced that Solomon was bent on punishing him for his dishonest play. He fell at the feet of the king, confessed his guilt, and begged his pardon. Solomon was pleased to have his supposition confirmed and also to have Benaiah acknowledge his wrongdoing. He assured him he harbored no evil designs against him, and that when he asked this question of the Sanhedrin, he had the real thieves in mind who had broken into the palace during the night. Another interesting incident happened in which Benaiah played a part. The king of Persia was very ill, and his physician told him that he could be cured by nothing but the milk of a lioness. The king accordingly sent a deputation bearing rich presents to Solomon, the only being in the world who might, in his wisdom, discover the means to obtain lion's milk. Solomon charged Benaiah to fulfill the Persian king's wish. Benaiah took a number of kids and repaired to a lion's den. Daily he threw a kid into the lioness, and after some time the beast became familiar with him, and finally he could approach the lioness close enough to draw milk from her udders. On the way back to the Persian king, the physician who had recommended the milk cure dreamed a dream. All the organs of his body, his hands, feet, eyes, mouth, and tongue were quarreling with one another, each claiming the greatest share of the credit and procuring the remedy for the Persian monarch. When the tongue set forth its own contribution to the cause of the king's service, the other organs rejected its claim as totally unfounded. The physician did not forget the dream, and when he appeared before the king, he spoke, "Here is the dog's milk, which we went to fetch for you." The king, enraged, ordered the physician to be hanged because he had bought the... Look. It threw me off real quick. Somebody gonna get me for cursing up here. Okay, I'm gonna say female dog. I'm not gonna say this here. Just okay. But it does have to be ITCH, but I'm gonna forego saying that today. And I'm gonna just say female dog, okay? Here is the dog's milk, which we went to fetch for you. The king, enraged, ordered the physician to be hanged because he had bought the milk of a female dog instead of the milk of a lion's dam. During the preliminaries to the execution, all the limbs and organs of the physician began to tremble, whereupon the tongue said, "Did I not tell you that you are all no good? If you will acknowledge my superiority, I shall even now save you from death." They all made the admission it demanded, and the physician requested the executioner to take him to the king. Once in the presence of his master, he begged him as a special favor to drink of the milk he had brought. The king granted his wish, recovered from his sickness, and dismissed the physician in peace. So it came about that all the organs of the body acknowledged the supremacy of the tongue. Besides, Benaiah, Solomon's two scribes, Elihoreph and Ahijah, the sons of Shisha, deserve mention. They both met their death in a most peculiar way. Solomon once upon a time noticed a careworn expression on the countenance of the angel of death. When he asked the reason, he received the answer that he had been charged with the task of bringing the two scribes to the next world. Solomon was desirous of stealing a march upon the angel of death, as well as keeping his secretaries alive. He ordered the demons to carry Elihoreph and Ahijah to Luz, the only spot on earth in which the angel of death has no power. In a jiffy, the demons had done his bidding, but the two secretaries expired at the very moment of reaching the gates of Luz. Next day, the angel of death appeared before Solomon in very good humor and said to him, "Thou didst transport those two men to the very spot in which I wanted them. The fate destined for them was to die at the gates of Luz, and the angel of death had been at a loss at how to get them there." A most interesting incident in Solomon's own family circle is connected with one of his daughters. She was of extraordinary beauty, and in the stars, here, look, remember when I told you about the story of Rapunzel? Let's see if you can surmise that coming from King Solomon's daughter. Look, she was of, a most interesting incident in Solomon's own family circle is connected with one of his daughters. She was of extraordinary beauty, and in the stars he read that she was to marry an extremely poor youth. To prevent the undesirable union, Solomon had a high tower erected in the sea, and to this he sent his daughter. 70 eunuchs were to guard her. A huge quantity of food was stored in the tower for her use. The poor youth, whom fate had appointed to be her husband, was traveling one cold night. He did not know where to rest his head when he espied the rent carcass of an ox lying in the field. In this he lay down to keep warm. When he was ensconced in it, there came a large bird, which took the carcass, bore it together with the youth, stretched out in it to the roof of the tower in which the princess lived, and settling down there began to devour the flesh of the ox. In the morning, the princess, according to her wont, ascended to the roof to look out upon the sea, and she caught sight of the youth. She asked him who he was and who had brought him thither. He told her that he was a Hebrew from Echo, and he had been carried away to the tower by a bird. So King Solomon spent all this time building this palace in the sea, this tower in the sea for his daughter, so that nobody could get over there in there and mess with her. And here come a bird and just drop this man that he had foreseen by reading the clock in the sky, right? By reading the stars, he thought he was gonna keep him away. He was not wiser than the most holy, right? She asked him who he was and who had brought him thither. He told her that he was a Hebrew from Echo and had been carried to the tower by a bird. She showed him to a chamber where he could wash and anoint himself and array himself in fresh garb. Then it appeared that he possessed unusual beauty. Besides, he was a scholar of great attainments and of acute mind. So it came about that the princess fell in love with him. She asked him whether he would have her to wife, and he assented gladly. He opened one of his veins and wrote the marriage contract with his own blood. Then he pronounced the formula of betrothal, taking Yahuwah and the two archangels, Michael and Gabriel, as witnesses, and she became his wife, legally married to him. After some time, the eunuchs noticed she was pregnant. Ooh, the king's daughter is pregnant. By who? Sounds like Shrek with the dragon. After some time, the eunuchs noticed that she was pregnant. Their questions elicited the suspected truth from the princess, and they sent for Solomon. His daughter admitted her marriage, and the king, though he recognized in her husband the poor man predicted in the constellations, yet he thanked Yahuwah for his son-in-law, distinguished no less for learning than for his handsome person. And that is where we're going to stop today. I was 2 minutes over the marker. I see it. We at 107. So I said we'll be probably finished by 105. But all right, beautiful people, that is our reading for today. We read 1 Samuel 10, 11, and 12. And we picked up in the Legends of the Jews on page 435. And we paused again here on page 438. And tomorrow, y'all, that was all about King Solomon. Now we're going into about what happens with his son, which begins chapter 6 with Judah and Israel and the splitting of the kingdom, right? So now, although King Solomon, after his whole charade of disobeying the command, then being flung out of his kingdom to live as a poor man, came to his senses. Now he doing what he's supposed to do. He has one wife who is now the queen, who sits on the throne with him, right? And now they begin to rule together. But his sins, although he repented and Yahuwah restored him to his throne, Yahuwah does not lie, right? So the repercussions of what he did, they still had to walk out. Although he didn't, at that point, he wasn't alive to see it. It happened in his son's day. He still saw chastisement in his day. By them 3 years, he was dispossessed of his kingdom, right? And considered a crazy lunatic. So he was punished in his day, but all that he did, the consequences of that fell on his son, right? So we're going to learn about what happened to his son tomorrow, all right? So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump on over here to the lesson. Y'all, it is Tuesday, March the 23rd, 2021, day 109 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And of the 3-year consecutive day count, it is day 778. That is without the Sabbath days and the feast day Sabbath days added in. Everybody know that by now. Sorry, y'all. Same thing with the blessing. I got to make a mark in here. Blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I don't think there's any questions. Trina, I just saw your comment. I know that's right. Get your own wife. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Kathy. Yeah, a lot of people kind of go in between Facebook and YouTube. So, all right, y'all. So, hold on. Go over here. I see a new comment. Oh, yeah, you're right. Aliyah said, was not Nebuchadnezzar. Something. Was that some? Hold on. I know what you're saying. Just do it. Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar, same thing. Although Nebuchadnezzar was a heathen king, right? He was a king of Babylon, but Yahuwah called Nebuchadnezzar his servant, right? Anytime Yahuwah employs the other nations other than us, like his specifically, and even what's his face? The one that they liken former President Trump to. What's his name? But anyway, it's right down the tip of my tongue. But anyway, King Cyrus, thank you. King Cyrus, although King Cyrus was a heathen king, when Yahuwah employs them to chastise Israel or to help Israel in any kind of way, he said, that's my... Probably how you say Hitler. No. No, not Hitler. But look, hold on. Let me finish what I'm saying. Look. Yahuwah calls him his servant right now. He still chastises those kings, those heathen kings. But if those heathen kings turn to Yahuwah, which he allows, Yahuwah will bless them in their rule. But they just need to make certain that they keep their hands off of Yahuwah's anointed or his people, right? The entire nation of Yisolili, right? The entire nation of Oh, okay. The entire nation of Israel. Okay, so it was a typo. You was typing in Cyrus and it did Hitler. Okay, I see you fix it. Cyrus, not Hitler. Laugh out loud. Okay. But yeah, y'all. That's it for today. But yeah, Nebuchadnezzar, he was bereft of all his senses too, right? Because Yahuwah had brought him to that great place of prominence. It's like, look at this kingdom. I have done this in all my wisdom and all my knowledge. And it's just because I'm so good at the human being. It's me. I've done all this. As soon as he had that momentary lapse of sanity, there was a voice that came from heaven. King Nebuchadnezzar, today you will have the mind of an animal and you're going to live in the wilderness and hair going to grow on your back like you was a beast and your nails, you ain't going to be able to cut them with your fingernail clippers. They're going to be like bird's claws. And I kind of summed it up, y'all. So don't take that scripture word for word. What I said word for word, I just kind of summed it up. But yeah, that tends to happen when people, that's why as I begin to notice, I'm like, Father, look, as you do stuff for our family, I said, Father, keep us most humble before you. Teach us to chastise ourselves first, because we'll need you doing that. Like sometimes we may need you to get us back on track, but I'm the one that's going to listen to you with the quiet voice. You ain't got to tell me twice, right? I've always been that type of person. Look, you see what happened to Keisha? I'm going to learn from her dumb mistake. You won't have me out there being stoned in the street like Keisha. Now, there were multiple times I should have been drugged out to the street and stoned to death by my father and my mother. But blessed be the Most Holy for his mercy and his grace upon our life, right? But look, no, it's best that we learn how to, when we, look, before there is ever a wide open rebuke or a wide open discipline where now the whole world has seen your folly and the whole world has seen your mistake. Before it's plastered all in our day, before it's plastered all over social media and the news, you know why that happens? It's because you didn't listen to the warnings to repent when it was nice and quiet, when nobody knew but you and the Most Holy. Y'all. So remember that anytime we see people being bust out publicly is because they ignored that voice quietly. When he said, turn around, you're going down the wrong road, stop. You don't want to keep doing that. You keep doing that, it's going to drive you here. You don't want to go there. And even when you're being bussed out, it's still to bring you back to him. Repent. Now everybody know. At least maybe now you have a sense of shame about what you've done, right? You lose stuff. I mean, all kind of things happen. Like, may we never be so prideful and that hard-headed and that deaf that it would ever get to that point, right? And none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, you know. Sometimes we just need a good knocking on the head, you know, but don't let it be you that has to be the one, that has to be the example for the public flogging. Y'all hear me say it all the time, like my mom always say, all it takes is one good public flogging. And everybody else gonna line up. You get the ringleader, and everybody else, ooh, no. Look, y'all see that video I posted yesterday? It was funny. I don't know. They was maybe over in the UK or something like that. Somewhere they had accents, right? But it was a guy. It was staged. It was staged with a police officer or a security guard and another person who would seem to be just a normal passerby, but he was in on it too. And they had the cameras recording. But what happened was they were like, it looked like they were in the mall and everybody know they're supposed to be wearing their masks, right? So what happened was, I guess it was a little experiment. It's a great example about one good public flogging, right? And so they had the guy who was in on it, who didn't wear the face mask, the COVID face mask, cover your mouth, cover your face, you know, all that, right? Put it on, right? They had him purposely walking in the mall without his face mask on, and they had the police officer or the security guard with his baton, and he's like, hey, where's your mask? Pop, pop, pop. And so they waited until there was a group following him, and they had him coming down escalators. So people there, they either you gonna turn around and go back up the escalators, or you gonna come down, you gonna turn around, right? So what happened was, and he said it loud enough so the people around him could hear. And what happened, he said, where's your mask? Like, and he started beating them with the baton, pop, pop, pop. And what everybody else do? One good public flog. Everybody, everybody pulling out their masks. I watched the video like 10 times last night. Me and James was in the bed last night. Look at that video, holler. It's literally a minute long, but we watched it like 10 times. But I brought it up because that's a really good example about a public flogging. You get the person in front that's leading the shenanigans, and all y'all, everybody, you ain't wearing your mask? I ain't wearing my mask either till we see you get beat. You know, we out of here. Everybody. They was turning around on the escalators, turning back around, dude walking back up the escalators, fumbling, trying to get his out his pocket, putting it on. Like, you can tell that wasn't America. They had to be somewhere else that they were still kind of afraid of authority, and they allow you to get away with batoning people. Like, don't try that over here in America. What, my G? Let somebody whoop out their baton and try and hit somebody. Especially don't let it be a black person, especially you got other black people. It doesn't even matter. People is going to hop in there. They're not having it here in America. But it was still, nevertheless, it was a good example about public flogging. You should have seen their face. They were almost terrified. Like, no, don't hit me. I'm like, hit me if you want to. Although I ain't going to be out here vagabond. I'm going to follow the rules. But look, because I ain't trying to bring on any unnecessary trouble. But yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, you know, see, the Most High don't like pride. That's when justice will come to you quick, aka America will fall for their prideful, not their humbleness. Yeah, you got that right. You can see a lot of places falling, right? And other places that's obedient, that's rising up in its stead. We all tend to have those moments. Aliyah, I pray for you, my brother. May Yahuwah give everybody the strength and the good the wisdom and the strength to do what's right always. And when we mess up, may we just realize, hey, you know what? Father, forgive me. You know, but if you can force it, a lot of times Yahuwah will help you foresee things and foresee the road you're heading down so you can begin making adjustments, right? That's where it really starts. He'll tap you right. Hey, look, you know, but you can tell from the time, like if you're really paying attention and you really want to do what's right, you're easy to adjust your ways, right? You have a more teachable, more pliable heart, and Yahuwah can adjust you along the road. But if you have if you just got a hard head, y'all, you may need to experience a little bit of shock and awe, right? Some people do. You got different levels of people. Some people need to experience shock and awe to keep them on the right path or whatever, But is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. Wherever level of discipline that you can straighten up at, straighten up, but don't let it keep escalating because you're not listening, right? Okay, y'all. So that's it for today. We out here. I'm already over my time. So I love you all. I will see y'all here tomorrow bright and early. Remember, be getting all these products out of your house if you are observing Passover and unleavened bread, because it begins this weekend. It's a full moon as well on Saturday, and Passover is Saturday, and unleavened bread begins the next day on Sunday, which is also a Sabbath, a true Sabbath day. And the first day of unleavened bread is designated as a Sabbath day, right? So we know we got to count right? It falls on an actual Sabbath day. Now, if we had not adjusted to the moon cycles, to the Sabbaths, that would not work out in such perfect sequence, right? And that's how I knew, boom, we on track. It all falls in line. All right, y'all. So that being said, I'm done for today. I'll see y'all tomorrow here, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Bye, y'all.